Hello, everybody. I just finished a coaching session. I worked out with my student Crystal, and we had a fairly intense workout. She came in, she was kind of tired, and I said, "What's going on today?" And she said, "Well, she did jujitsu Sunday, and then the following day, she moved a lot of stuff out of this van and did a lot of work, so her quads were tight. She was tired, but she said, I definitely want to move. I definitely want to stretch out and circulate the blood. I don't want to just take it easy and do yoga or something." So I said, all right, I have a workout I like to do with her, or a workout theme I like to do with her. I call it Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So she was a fan of that show growing up, and if you with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and if you watch the show, she does a lot of taekwondo, a lot of kicks and axe kicks and things like that. And so, a heavily taekwondo flavored workout, lots of, jab, cross, hook, axe kick, jab, cross, hook, roundhouse kick, spin, back kick, step through, spin, back kick, spin, hook kick, saber kick, which is an in-to-out crescent kick, the other crescent kick, which is out to in, and also an axe kick that starts off like a crescent kick this way and drops, or starts off like a crescent kick this way and drops. Lots of quick, snappy back fists, but the emphasis was on the legs, although we did end with some earthbending type stuff where, you're doing lots of hard punches and rooted stances, emphasizing hip rotation very much like Hungar or Shotokan, or more deeply rooted five ancestor fists using deeper stance, those types of techniques. So I always like to end with a bit of a contrast. So it was a really good exercise session. I broke a sweat myself, and it's now noon. It is a beautiful sunny day outside. So I had an idea for a video that's been on my mind for a couple days, because this is my second week at Crunch Gym, and I'm feeling pretty good, honestly. I'm starting to notice results right away in my kicks, in the way my hips feel, in the way my support leg feels. It took a while to find just the right adjustment. Technically it's 3 weeks. I did a 7-day pass, and now this is my second week of full membership. And I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm using more of a high-intensity, low-volume approach. I do a push day on Monday. I come in, usually on Monday I do some form of martial arts at home. Not a whole hell of a lot. Maybe a half hour, maybe an hour. Basics, forms, and combinations. And I'm doing a lot with weapons these days. Anything from stick work from the Filipino martial arts. I swing my Turkish yatagan around. Some Chinese broadsword. I have a Persian shamshir, a Joe staff, of course daggers, and single and double edged knives, sharpened, and also training versions. So I get a decent workout, enough to get a full body circulation, get flexible, stretch out, punch, kick, swing the weapons around, do the forms. Then I go in and I get on the treadmill, and I'm doing intervals on the treadmill. What for me would be a quick pace, I do a minute of a slow pace, and then 3 minutes of a quick pace, and then a minute of a slow pace, and so on. And then, I do about 4 rounds of that, and then jogging at a slow pace, and then walking at a slow pace to cool down. And then I do all my pushing. So on my push days, it's chest, back, triceps, and tentatively getting back into bench pressing using more of the free weights, overhead French press, things like that. And then Tuesday, today, I teach Crystal and I do martial arts with her, and when she leaves, I normally do a few forms and a few techniques when she's gone. And instead today I'm doing this video, but I plan on doing at least 3 or 4 forms, shorter forms from both karate and kung fu. And of course my weapon work. I bought the Nyatagan and I'm working with it. Then, Wednesday I come into the gym, I do some light martial arts at home. I get on the treadmill, I do my treadmill routine. And then pulling, right? and lots of machine work on that. Sometimes one-handed rows. And then Thursday, usually I teach Crystal, repeat what I do when she comes over, work out with her, then a little something for me when she leaves. And then Friday is leg day, which is the most pivotal day because it's really hard to get it right. I try to do at least an hour of martial arts at home, and then I try to go over there. I do light. I used to do heavy work on the treadmill on Friday, try to make that my peak treadmill day in terms of speed, distance, hills and all that. I've learned that can be a bit of a folly. And then I do leg press, leg extension, leg curl. I may get back into squatting. I just have to be really careful. Injury prevention is really important when you hit my age. And then, I'm also walking a lot. Just walking around town. My bike got a flat, and I could get it fixed at any time. I'm like, let me just walk around for a month or two. Just get more walking in. And so what I noticed was if I get leg day just right like I did last week, instead of walking around with my legs like jello and taking forever to get my flexibility back, I felt good. I was able to work out the next day, throw some kicks on a Sunday as well. And, it's just a matter of the right balancing act. But I still go fairly intense. And I've had conversations with people at the gym. I've had conversations with people outside of the gym. And a text conversation with my friend Jose in Bound Brook, New Jersey. And what I notice is, people don't know how to use the machines right. The Nautilus Cam has a particular thing about it and a particular way it should be used to get optimal results. See, the thing about Nautilus, and not so much universal, thing about Nautilus is it's designed to eliminate mechanical advantages. For example, if you're bench pressing, there's resistance at the bottom, and then it kind of peaks just before you get to extension. And when you get to extension, you can lock your limbs out and bear a lot of the weight on your joints rather than your muscles. And then on the way down, you'll notice, if you have been strength training a while, that you can kind of negatively resist beyond your normal point of exhaustion. Or you can only lift 200 pounds, you could negatively resist on the way down 205 pounds with some degree of control, but then you can't press it back up again. But you will notice that. So the machines are designed to take away a lot of that, so that you get a uniform resistance throughout your Nautilus leg extension or leg curl or something like that. So the ideal way to use it is bring the weight up fairly quickly to the top position, but instead of locking it, the minute you get to that top position, lower it on the way down with more control. And then when you get to the bottom, instead of letting it lock and sort of let the weight get off your muscles, bring it back up again. And all of this should be done with as little involvement of other muscles as possible. I've seen people get on these machines and do 6 or 7 sets. And so what I'm thinking is, it looks like when people want an intense workout, they go to the free weights, but they want to have an easy day, or they want to kind of cool down, they take it easy on the machines. It should actually be reversed. The machines are there to help you train to failure and beyond, right? For instance, if I'm doing a deltoid raise on the Nautilus machine, I do a light warm-up set, a medium set, and then I try to get the weight to that top weight to where I would struggle to do it. Maybe 4 to 6 times would be a struggle. And then when I get to 7, let's say I get a 7 and I'm really trying to resist. And then when I try to get to 8, I can't really do it anymore. I can't get a full motion, so I strain, I try, and then I try to resist it on the way down, and then I might try it again, and I'm just straining against there, And then what I do is I take like a 20-second breathing pause. I get back in, I do a full motion, and I try to just do negatives, do really extended negatives, right? And isometricals. And so I'm not just training to failure, I'm training to beyond failure. Training to failure doesn't mean I did a set where the last rep felt really hard. I didn't want to do anymore. Training to failure means I train to the point where I cannot physically execute another rep, and then I might do partials, negatives, or rest pauses, and then iso holds until that muscle is completely exhausted, and then I'm done. There's no cool down sets. You're trying to get the minimal amount of reps and sets. You're trying to get the maximal amount of muscular exertion with the minimal amount of exercise, right? There's this kid at the gym. When I used to belong to Planet Fitness, I remember seeing him. He was, well-built Russian kid, and I saw him again. He just looked phenomenal, and we recognized each other. I'm like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He's, "Hey, I'm cool," and he has like a little hearing aid. He has a hearing impediment, and he has the curly hair. It looks a bit like a young Lou Ferrigno if he had more angular features and a pointier nose. And I told him that. I'm like, "Dude, the gains you've made are phenomenal." I'm like, "I'm guessing you cut your volume down." He says, "Oh yes, a lot. Because I talked to him about it about a year ago, and we talked about certain things and training principles, and there's the illusion that you just do more, put more time in the gym to make muscular gains, especially if you're trying to get stronger and bigger. Right? Stronger and bigger. Not necessarily more powerful, not necessarily more ripped, right? And by bigger, I mean making the muscle bigger, right? There's a whole bunch of factors in there, including diet, thermogenics, how many calories do you take and how many calories do you put out? How are you absorbing it? What's your digestion like? Do you have an endocrine problem? Anything from liver problems to diabetes to digestive problems in the stomach and intestines, all of that can affect, how much muscle you can put on, how much energy you have. That's beyond my scope of knowledge. For that, you need a doctor with diagnostic equipment. But I think people are just lounging on these machines. They're just using them as accessories. They're not getting what they can out of them. And they're just pumping off some easy to medium reps, which seems like a waste. You can do so much with these machines, right? When I think in 11 years I can collect a Social Security check, right? And I want to be in optimal condition to enjoy that extra money, People joke, hookers and blow, right? And I'm like, leave out the blow. Right. But what you want, okay, is you want to not waste time. Now, mind you, this high-intensity training requires a lot of rest, a lot of exertion, a lot of rest. And I also think you probably can't do it all year long. You probably need time periods of a month to 3 months where you have more frequency, more reps, more sets, far less weight, far less stress and strain on your body. Maybe a total body routine 3 times a week, or maybe one of the more standard splits where you're training each muscle, twice a week for a total of 4 times in the gym a week. That's not counting. Maybe you come in some days, just do cardio, stretch, or use the heavy bag, or, whatever, right? Work your abs or something. So there's all those factors. Jose and I talked about Casey Viator, Mike Mentzer, Arthur Jones. Now, what some people do is they're like, well, look at the Mentzer brothers, how they died fairly young. Mike Mentzer kind of stopped training at a certain point and, just wrote books and made tons of money and did seminars on training people, but he neglected his own personal training. Both brothers had a congenital problem. And Mentzer did a lot of smoking and drinking, right? I do think high intensity training or too much intensity for too long without enough rest, too much volume for too long without enough rest, that can shorten your life. You can over exercise, shorten your life, and reduce the quality of your life. You have to balance things. Even moderation in moderation, right? If you're doing high intensity, you're going to have more rest, more sleep, more days off. I remember reading about Tom Platz and how his squat and shoulder training was just incredible. And sometimes, after doing a max set, then he would do negatives, and then he would do, he would do force reps, the negatives, and when he couldn't do negatives, he'd just strain against that bar, right? But I guess I didn't read the fine print. I remember looking at a video recently, a documentary of him in the 90s, and he said, sometimes after those workouts, he wouldn't work out again or work that body part again for 10 whole days. That's something, right? I think a lot of young bodybuilders injured themselves trying to emulate him, what they read in the magazines, the incomplete information, right? I also think I may get to the point, I have a doctor's appointment in March, and there's going to be a weigh-in. When I get to February, I may switch to less intensity, more sets, longer duration, more frequency, just to be in the gym more, burning more calories, these are all factors, right? But I think the common thread that goes through all of this is try to really research what you're doing and going to do from credible sources. Look at more than one source. Look at the science that's out there, which is ever evolving, right? We know a little bit more about many things than we did back in the 80s and 90s. Maybe not a whole lot more about some things, but definitely a little bit more. We've been able to confirm some things, and some things look like, they're obsolete or were wrong. So my goal is to be a badass 150-year-old, or 180-year-old, right? Can you imagine being 180 years old and being able to do 10 push-ups, a pull-up, walk in the park, do some kata, see things clearly, chew your food, squat down on the floor, pick something up, stand back up, right? And get an erection and have sex with a beautiful girl at 180, and then, just kind of dying quietly in your sleep. It's different. When I was younger, I was training for things, competitions, black belt tests, so on and so forth. I'm at the point now where I'm trying to be the most badass, healthy version of myself that I can be, well advanced into old age. I want to be the most badass fly old man I can be. And if another goal comes up, if another martial art that I want to get a black belt in, opportunity comes up, I'll adjust my training for that, right? Stay healthy, stay strong, stay mobile, right? Stay alert, stay mentally active. Have a good day.